Jimothy,
Rosanna.
there is a movie called The Terminal in which Tom Hanks plays a man who is forced to live in an airport for 9 months because his passport is declared invalid and he is not legally allowed to leave the international terminal until the issue is resolved. Now, a lot of people don't know that The Terminal, a whimsical movie with hijinks and Catherine Zeta-Jones, that movie is based on a real story about a real man, except that man didn't get stuck living at an airport for 9 months. He got stuck living there for 18 years.
What?
Yes.
He lived for 18 years in a terminal.
Yes.
Wow.
This is just the gist. Mehran of Mehran, Karimi, Nasseri.
Wow.
I'm Just the Gist host, Rosie Borderland. Our mini-eps drop on Tuesdays. Regular-size episodes drop on Thursdays. And bonus episodes drop every Tuesday for members of the Gisner Club. Joining me today is JTG senior producer James Joseph.
Thank you for having me, Rosanna. It's a pleasure to be here.
Isn't it nice when I write the introduction down?
Yeah. It's like we get through it like that.
You know what I should do? Hear me out. This might sound crazy.
Whoa.
Copy paste that and just
Every single one.
put it in all my episodes.
That's crazy. That is wild.
Because every week I'm like, oh no, how will I remember the intro? There is simply no solution for this.
That we haven't been using for like generations and decades and civilizations of people. Writing it down. This is crazy. So
Crazy.
I love an airport terminal.
Yeah, I know
Like
you do.
I do.
know
I
you
often
do.
go to the airport like ridiculously early just to sit in the terminal,
Yep.
have a coffee.
Yep.
Like the same, it's probably the same reason why I love a food court. Like I
Yeah.
love that time. I don't like rushing.
Yeah.
I just like sitting there, having a little like something to eat, something to chill.
Go to the airport, go 4 hours early, go to your gate, make sure it's there.
Yeah, because sometimes they're far away.
Sometimes they're not there.
Sometimes they're not there.
Sometimes they're just not there. So you got to go make sure it's there. And then you get the lay of the land, wander back, find yourself a little spot. It's nice to get sort of one of the like booth tables.
you want a booth, yeah.
And
Prime real estate.
chillax.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Get a coffee, get a sweet treat.
Could you do that for 18 years?
I don't know if I could do it for 18 years though. It depends on the terminal. Not all terminals are built equal.
What's the fancy one with the waterfall?
Singapore.
Is that, I've never been there.
I could live at Singapore terminal.
Yeah.
that's
I've done a layover once. And it was because I wasn't paying for it, obviously. It was for work and I was going to London and I was flying business class.
Oh,
and
wow.
so we stopped at Abu Dhabi and I got to be in the business class lounge and that was nice.
I've been in the business class lounge at Doha Airport.
Was it nice?
That was nice. That had a waterfall in it too.
Ooh,
no
this one
no
didn't.
Singapore waterfall, but it had a waterfall in it.
Wowee.
Yeah, wild.
Did you know, we can cut this, but I was reading yesterday at Sydney International Airport, because you know how they're renovating at the moment. Soon there's going to be a hairdresser, a nail salon, a gym.
At the existing one, not the new one.
No, the Sydney International. Like the one that's there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A gym, wow.
Yeah.
Not using that.
And you don't have to be flying to go in. So do you want to pay exorbitant prices to go to the airport and get your nails done?
Well, this would have been
You can.
great for terminal guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't get his nails done, but he definitely took advantage of the amenities.
I'd be getting pedicures all the time. I got a pedicure once with you.
You did.
Revolutionary, changed my
We
life.
haven't been back yet.
We need to go back.
Okay, we will.
My toenails need some attention.
Oh, when we go to Bali, we'll just get pedicures on pedicures on pedicures.
Need some little done
Treat
once you've been there.
yourself.
Treat yourself.
Okay, let's go.
How did he end up in this situation?
So, Mehran Karimi Nasseri. Nobody knows exactly when he was born because he's a bit of a storyteller. And also all his official documentation from birth is long gone. So they think he was born around 1947-ish. And he was born in the Anglo-Persian Oil Company settlement in Iran.
Okay.
His dad was an Iranian doctor working for the oil company, and his mum was a stay-at-home mother. He had 5 siblings, and they lived led a very privileged life. Like they were getting access to a lot of that wealth that was coming from those Western countries just going after all their oil at the time, which, you know. But then when he was in his early 20s, his father died. And he says that this was when his mother told him that she wasn't actually his mother. She told him that his father had had an affair with a Scottish nurse on the oil base, and because adultery was punishable by death there, Mehran's father and his wife agreed to raise him as their, like, as well as his own, but not her own. But she agreed to raise him as her own to protect everyone involved from punishment. But apparently she'd always been super pissed off about it. And now that his dad was dead and not at risk of getting stoned to death for knocking up a Scottish lady, she was like, I hate you. I hated your dad for cheating on me. You're not my son.
See you later.
I'm cutting you off. Goodbye. And Mehran is devastated, and they argue about like that emotional family stuff, but also about his inheritance, because there was a pretty big will there from his dad and she didn't want to give him anything. But eventually they come to an agreement that he would leave and go and study in the UK at university. And in exchange for him leaving, she would give him a monthly allowance from his dad's like estate. So he enrolls in the University of Bradford in England, but it doesn't take long for the allowance to just stop coming. He tries to get in touch with his mother/not mother in Iran, but couldn't. So eventually he arranges to fly back there to confront her in person. But when he lands in Iran, he gets arrested because the government had photos of him in England taking part in student protests against the Iranian government. And so he gets put in prison, and his mother/not mother finds out he's in there, and she does pay the bribes needed to get him released, but she does it on one condition. She talks with officials and said, when he's released, I want you to give him an immigration passport only, because that means he can use it to leave Iran, but he can never use it to come back.
Wow. He's like Scar in the Lion King. He's like, run away and never return.
Exactly. She's like, you remind me of your dad's affair. Like, please leave forever kind of thing.
Wow.
So he does. And there's lots of like finicky detail here, and this is just the gist. So I'll kind of like narrow it down and give you the gist by saying he kind of just bounces around for quite a few years trying to find asylum in a country that will take him. Yeah, because he's essentially stateless.
Yeah.
Which means he is no longer a resident of the country he was born in, but he also isn't a resident anywhere else. So no country will take him. He needs a country to offer him asylum and then hopefully eventually citizenship.
And it's kind of hard because how do you prove you're seeking asylum from a country, because he's not necessarily facing any kind of persecution there either. So it's kind of like this weird,
it's tricky,
grey void area.
Yeah. So he says at this point he was hoping to eventually end up in Glasgow because he wants to try and find his real birth mother, and he has some sketchy details that about like what her name is and the fact that she's based in Glasgow in Scotland. So eventually he's offered refugee status in Belgium in 1981 when he's in his early 30s. So it has been 10 years since the time he found out his dad had died. So it's like a pretty solid chunk of time where he went to university, prison, got cut off, and then bounced around for a while, has ended up in Belgium, finally. He gets a job in a library and he's getting by on like government sort of refugee assistance, but he still just really wants to go to Glasgow to find his birth mother. So he saves up some money and he buys a boat ticket to go from Belgium to London, and he's hoping from London to go over to Scotland. But this is where he does something weird. So because he believes he has one UK-born parent, his Scottish mother, he believes that gives him the automatic right to be a UK citizen.
Mm-hmm.
And he says he believes that because the boat he was travelling over to London on was a British boat, he thought being on it was the same thing as being on like British soil, UK soil.
Yeah.
So he thought
like an embassy.
Yeah, kind of. So he was like, when I step on that British boat, I'm essentially in the UK, in Britain. So if he gets rid of all his ID and tells them he has a UK-born mother, they'll just give him residency, like give him a UK passport. That's what he thinks in his mind.
Doesn't work like even I know it doesn't work like that.
While he's on the boat from Belgium to London, they think it's while he's on the boat from Belgium to London, all of his identity documentation disappears. Like anything that says who he is, his refugee status in Belgium, his like original immigration passport that his like mother had got for him in Iran, like all of it just disappeared. Like some people think he chucked it overboard. He says that he mailed it to the UN High Commission of Refugees while he was on the boat. Like there's mail service. But most people are like, he just chucked it over the side. But like whatever happened, like anything official that said who he was or what his citizenship status, residential status, refugee status was, disappeared at some point on the boat between Belgium and London.
And at that point, he could be anyone then.
Yeah.
Like just because he's like, oh, no, this is who I am.
Yeah.
I mean, people would do that all the time.
Yeah, and that's why this is where everything goes to shit.
Yeah.
So this was the 80s. There's no electronic records really. Like without paper documentation, he's kind of effed. So when he gets to London, he doesn't have like ID, passport, anything. So they send him back to Belgium because they're like, we're not letting you in. He gets to Belgium. He doesn't have ID, documentation, anything. So they send him back to England. And then...
But is he a Belgium citizen at this point or not?
He has refugee status, but he doesn't have the documentation because whether he threw it overboard or mailed it or whatever, he got rid of it. So they send him back to Belgium and Belgium's like, where's your refugee status? He's like, I don't have it. They're like, bye. They send him back to England. So when he arrives back in England, they're like, ugh, this guy again. Like they don't want it to be their problem. And Belgium had sent him back. So this time they put him on a boat to France. They're like, go away. And when
eventually someone will take you.
When he gets to France, they don't know what to do with him because he has no passport, no ID, no refugee status documentation. And they don't want to let him in the country. So they just put him in prison for a few months because they don't know what to do with him. And when they release him, they tell him he has 24 hours to leave France. They drop him at Charles de Gaulle Airport and he thinks, okay, I'll try and fly to London because that's probably where I have the best chance of getting somewhere.
Yeah.
So he lands in London. Again, no passport, no ID. They won't let him in the country. So they send him on a flight straight back to France. He tries a couple more times to get back to London, who bounce him back to France, who bounce him back to London, who bounce him back to France. And so finally, France gets the shits. And they put him in prison for 6 months. And they say, stop trying to enter our country illegally. When we put you on a plane somewhere,
don't come back.
Don't effing come back. And so after 6 months, they release him. They drop him off at Charles de Gaulle Airport again at Terminal 1, the international airport. And that is technically not France because the international terminal is technically international.
Is it really? In all international airports?
I don't know. I tried looking into this, but in this situation, it is.
Wow.
So when they drop him at Charles de Gaulle Airport and he goes to the international terminal, he has no money left. He can't fly anywhere himself. They're not putting him on any more flights. But he does know that as long as he stays inside the international terminal, he's not technically in France, so they can't arrest him and send him back to French prison because technically he's not in France. So he sleeps in Terminal 1 that night and then another night and then another night. And authorities kind of let him because, to be honest, like at this point it just feels easier. They're like, okay, like he doesn't have the documentation to leave the international terminal to go to any other country besides France, but he also doesn't have the documentation to leave the international terminal to enter France. And the authorities are like, red tape, bureaucracy, like
just stay there.
Explosion, like just stay there until we figure out what to do. So he does. And those first few nights eventually turn into weeks and eventually turn into months. and then into 18 years.
Wow.
And I know, like, your next question will be, like, how did he live? Like, what was the setup? What did he do? And the only way I can describe it is it's kind of like if you're on the TV show Alone, but in an airport terminal. Like, that's kind of how he does it.
I would watch that show.
Like, he kind of just fashions together. Like, if you're thinking about something like this, you'd be like, oh, I'm sure there's like hotels in the airport or something. Like, surely it's something like that. No, this is an airport terminal. Like, just what you imagine, restaurants, benches, whatever, toilets. He literally gets these 2 red benches and he pushes them together. They're near the McDonald's on the ground floor. And he kind of uses them as his like little bed. Then he pulls over a little food court table and he uses that as a desk. And a flight attendant gives him a pillow and a like blanket from a plane. And that kind of becomes the beginning of his like building his home base.
Because he would be there for years. So like everyone would get to know him. Everyone would be giving him food.
Yes.
Everyone would be bringing things from their home to be like, have
totally
blah, blah, blah. And so eventually he would just have a great little setup there.
So he slowly starts to build up a collection of stuff because he becomes a bit famous.
Yeah.
So,
and is he like charmed? Does he have the Riz?
He's got the Riz.
People
like passengers
want to help him out.
Yeah, they give him books and magazines and money. He like mainly eats McDonald's. That's his favorite, but he'll also sometimes eat from some of the other like crappy airport places. There were 2 bathrooms nearby that he could use, and one of them had a shower and someone had given him an electric razor so he could do that.
Yeah.
You know, as I was writing this, I was like, James would actually really love this. He, made friends with all the shop assistants so they would watch his stuff while he like went for walks or went to the bathroom or whatever. And after a while, he started to become a bit of a sort of local cult celebrity. People would come to Charles de Gaulle Airport to see him specifically, or if they were stopping there, they knew he was there and they wanted to see him. And that's how he was initially getting most of his money and food, because people were helping him. He even went and opened a savings account at the bank upstairs to keep his money in. And the mailman would deliver letters to him, even though he had no address. If people just wrote like his name and Charles de Gaulle Airport, the mailman just brought it to him, because people all over the world were hearing about him. It was getting covered on the news sometimes as like this bizarre, quirky story about this man stuck at an international terminal at an airport, which at that point everyone assumed was just because of like bureaucratic red tape. Like, how weird. Oh, he can't leave to go there. He can't leave to go there. Nobody wants to be the one to issue him anything. So what? He lives at the airport. So it's like a story. It's an interesting news story at the time. But the thing with that story is that in reality, after a while, it wasn't just the bureaucratic red tape keeping him there. Like, for the first couple of years, his mental health is okay, but it very quickly starts to deteriorate.
Yeah.
He starts calling himself Sir Alfred. He denounces the name Mehran Karimi Nasseri. He starts saying that he was born in Sweden, and he denies all connection to Iran. He refuses to speak Farsi, his language of birth. He would only speak English, and he would only answer to the name Sir Alfred. There was an airport doctor who said that he started off very like a bright spark, and then it was almost like he became fossilized. Like, he just started to disappear more and more and more mentally. He insists to anyone who asks that he just wants to go to Scotland to find his real mother. And after 7 years of wrangling and searching, a lawyer who got in touch with him within the first few weeks of him being there finally actually finds the documentation that Sir Alfred, I'm calling him Sir Alfred now, insisted that he had sent from the boat between Belgium and London.
Really?
He actually had.
He just put it in a bottle and with an address and threw it over the side.
Or maybe that's why it took so long to find. But this lawyer, it takes him 7 years, but eventually he finds this documentation. And so this lawyer is able to get the French government to issue Sir Alfred a temporary visa and permission to travel to Scotland, which is all he's wanted to do. Like, literally, it's been 7 years.
Wow.
That's the longest time. And
how long do you think you would last in a terminal airport?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. If I had like a comfy setup that was working for me, I could have a happy life.
It depends how strong the Wi-Fi was.
Yeah, good Wi-Fi and like people coming to see me all the time. Like I get to put on a little show every day. You
would
know?
too.
I would.
You would be put on such a show.
I'd be having a blast kind of doing Macca's for every meal. Like, I think I'd kind of like it.
You think,
Yeah. How long do you think you'd last?
I think I could last a while too.
I think you could too. It kind of reminds me of being in the van.
Yeah.
Except in the van you have access to nature. Like he literally never goes outside. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it's been 7 years, but you'd think he'd be desperate to get out. He says he is. But the visa and the new documentation that the French government issue him in order for him to travel to Scotland, they're not under the name Sir Alfred. They're under his original name that he was born with, Mehran like, Karimi Nasseri. And they also say that he's Iranian and not British. And he says, my name is Sir Alfred and I am British. I will not sign this documentation. Okay, and they're like, well, we can't let you leave then. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? So it's been 7 years and all he has to do is sign this documentation so he can go, and he won't. Now,
but like, what if someone commits a crime at that terminal? Surely the police can come in and arrest them and take them away.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell.
I feel like the police must have powers to go in there and remove him forcibly.
But I think he hasn't.
From the terminal.
Technically, he hasn't. I mean, I suppose you could say that he's committing a crime by just being what I wouldn't call, but the government might call like an illegal asylum seeker or whatever. But I mean, I tried looking into this and all I can really assume is that press-wise it would be really bad. Like this isn't someone who deserves to go to prison just because none of these countries can get their shit together and figure out who should be giving him a passport. Like, so I don't know. It became this kind of quirky thing where they just kind of, that's where he lived.
Okay, yeah.
It was easier to keep him there than to like
take him away,
do some paperwork and like figure it out. Yeah. A man called Michael Patanidi wrote a very famous GQ article about Sir Alfred after he'd been there for about 15 years. The article was called The 15-Year Layover. I'll put the link in the show notes. And he spoke to the lawyer who tried to help Alfred, and this is what he said about it. He said, quote, he told me that when he'd first met Alfred, the man had been quite lucid in the telling of his story, but that over time he had become free of logic, so his story kept changing. After Alfred suddenly asserted he was Swedish, the lawyer asked how he then had travelled from Sweden to Iran. Submarine, Alfred said. Perhaps he was crazy now, but the lawyer argued he'd arrived there by several steps. Assume that you were 23, you finished your studies, your father dies, and at that exact moment your mother says, I'm not your mother. You have brothers and sisters, but not anymore. And because you are illegitimate, you are a nobody in your country. You have no rights. And so you ask, who is my mother then? You leave your country only to be imprisoned and then leave with nowhere to go, whereupon you are imprisoned again and then once more. In your mind, you have renounced this person and this name that was formerly you, but when, years later, you go to get what you think is your freedom, the papers identify you as that person. How strong does a man have to be to resist so many big shocks? And the writer, Michael Patanidi, says, but then I wondered aloud, why not simply sign the documents and afterward legally change his name? Let me tell you something, said the lawyer. He's not leaving that airport. He's no one outside that airport. Yeah. He's become a star there, or he feels like a star and acts like one. If you come with a camera, he knows his best side. Otherwise, his personality has broken into pieces. So that's very interesting. Like, that's the lawyer who was working with him for 7 years, who like got a very firsthand inside look at how he changed over that time. Yeah. So this is the point where he apparently is now in a fairly solid routine. There's kind of no option in the near future that he's going to get to leave because that was it. And so he stops at this point relying so much on the kindness of random strangers, and he kind of has a more formal, lucrative setup where he would do media interviews and let people film him in exchange for a fee. And he was apparently and he was apparently very dignified in all of the interviews he did. Every time he was asked, why are you living at this airport? He would only ever answer that the situation was temporary. And as soon as he's given the chance to leave, he was going to meet with his real mother in Scotland. He would get his clothes cleaned at the airport dry cleaner. He just continued staying groomed using the public bathrooms. He collected all the newspaper and magazine articles that were written about him, and he had them all on display around his little benches. He eventually had a whole lot of boxes and bags piled up all around his little area. The airport didn't even keep using those red cushioned benches anymore. They had upgraded in a renovation, but they left his two
That's
benches
where he lived,
there. Yeah. He even, in 2002, I love this so much, acted in a mockumentary movie, a mockumentary about him by an amateur filmmaker. It was called, it was shot at Terminal 1. It was called Here to Wear, and in it he plays himself, and he had to learn lines and everything.
That's amazing.
You can watch it on Vimeo. Vimeo,
nice,
is that how you say? I never know how you
Vimeo?
Vimeo? I don't know. And then a year after that, in 2003, DreamWorks pays him $250,000 for his life rights so they can make the terminal.
Oh, so he was still living in the terminal when they...
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Also, quick question. Did he have contact with his mum throughout this time? Did she know he existed? Did he know who...
We're going to get to it.
Because I'm kind of if that's your motivation, there's nothing stopping her from just...
We're going to get to
coming and seeing him.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So he deposits that $250K into his little bank account
Cha-ching.
that he set up at the airport bank. The final version of the terminal didn't end up really having much to do with his story. It's Tom Hanks. He's a business, I think he's a diplomatish kind of businessman. He's there for 9 months. He falls in love with Catherine Zeta-Jones. It's very different. But he loved telling people the story was based on him. He had a big movie poster of the terminal up at sitting next to his benches.
That's so great.
He started telling people that Steven Spielberg was organizing American citizenship for him so he could fly to California and live and work in Hollywood. In 2004, he co-wrote his autobiography with a professional ghostwriter called Terminal Man. There were a couple of other French documentaries made about him as well. So he was constantly participating in projects about him and his life. And the people who worked with him on these projects all pretty much said that he was far more mentally unwell than the public realized. Paul Bertzella, the amateur filmmaker who made the mockumentary Here to Wear with him in 2002, he wrote an article for The Guardian about him, and he said, "Still, I felt sorry for him. How could I not? Because one thing was never made quite clear in all the reports about Alfred, just how far gone he was. When he got talking about politics or the economy, you could sense the remnants of a fine mind. But when he turned to his past, you were dragged into the labyrinth of Alfred's fragile mental state. All the stories he had ever told over the years, all the articles ever written about him, were jumbled together in his head to produce a narrative that changed from day to day. The more you pressed him, the more absurd his supposed memories would become until he would suddenly stop short and fall silent. There seemed to be something in his past that he needed to forget." So besides the reality of Alfred's declining mental state, the reality of Alfred's background also came to light when working with all these professional creatives on all these projects because they all researched him. And in 2003, so not long after finishing up filming Here to Wear, Paul Bertzella tracked down Alfred's family, and they were actually very easy to find, which is because pretty much everything Alfred had said about his entire life wasn't true.
Yes.
So it seems like his childhood was true, And he did have 5 brothers and sisters that Paul could find. They were all very successful professional people living in various places internationally, like bankers, lawyers, that kind of thing. They said that he had been to university in England. He was living there with one of his brothers in London, and he had very suddenly dropped out after he failed a semester. Apparently he was like pretty embarrassed because he was like used to doing very well academically, and being an intellectual was really important to him, and he struggled in England, and he failed this semester and kind of freaked out and just dropped out of uni altogether. And after dropping out, he decided to go traveling around Europe for a while he decided what to do. And at some point, apparently, while he was gone, his siblings say like something changed. He became very distant, and contact from him became less and less, until suddenly one day, like, he just disappeared. They stopped hearing from him. They had no idea where he was, couldn't find him. And they spent years looking for him, years. And they didn't find him until a family friend saw him living at Terminal 1 at Charles de Gaulle Airport in the early 90s. And they did everything they could to try and get in contact with him, to see him, to get him home. They didn't want to turn up without knowing he wanted them there.
Yeah.
And so they tried getting into, like, he gets mail, he has lawyers, there's people, like the film people he's working with.
Connected to people, yeah.
Yeah, but he refused to acknowledge any contact from them. He refused to acknowledge they even existed. Eventually they just gave up, and they said that they assumed he was mentally unwell. He looked mentally unwell. In all the interviews and stuff, he's a very well-spoken man, but he looks homeless. Like, he looks homeless at the airport. And so they sort of thought, well, he's clearly living the life he wants to live. If he wanted to respond to us, he would. Saddest of all, though, is what happened with Alfred's mother in Scotland. She didn't exist. So
what?
Alfred's birth mother was his real mother.
Oh.
She had never cast him out after his father died.
Oh.
She was actually heartbroken when he disappeared.
Gosh.
And Alfred's siblings said that Alfred's story about like this longing to find his real mother in Scotland was one of the greatest sadnesses of his mother's life. Up until she died, his real birth mother would say, "He came from me. Why does he say he didn't come from me?"
That's so sad. That's
I
so
know.
heartbreaking.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, none of it was true.
But I love that how like so much of his time in the airport was like jovial, like, ha ha ha, this guy's living at the airport.
I know.
And you just kind of realize that there's actually like such sadness and trauma there.
It seems
that
like
we're all kind of like finding this, it has this kind of like facade of kind of like a comical thing that's going on.
Yeah. Like, it seems to me, we speculate wildly about mental pathology on this show, but some kind of psychological break happened when he was at university. Yeah. I don't want to say psychotic break, but something happened. Yeah. And, I got quite sad putting this together today because it's, it reminded me a lot of my dad.
Yeah.
That happened to my dad, who had schizophrenia. Like, they didn't know he was fine. School captain, star pupil, all the things, lived in the country, went off to university in Sydney, and within a couple of months he called his parents, my grandparents, naked, wrapped in a bedsheet from a phone booth, just completely freaking out. They came and picked him up, took him to see medical professionals who said he had schizophrenia. He was about, I think, 19 at the time, and he was just never the same again.
Isn't that crazy how like just something just manifests in someone's early 20s and just changes the trajectory of their life completely.
Completely changes.
And just have very little kind of control over it.
And it's also, I don't know if Alfred had schizophrenia.
Yeah.
But I do know with my dad, he never got treatment for it because it was just, I don't know, what was it? How old was it? I think it was like the 70s. The family was weird about it. They just got told he had it and they were like, okay, and then just, knuckled down and tried to take care of him, whatever. Mental health was a very weird taboo thing back then. Schizophrenia is still one of the more difficult mental illnesses to talk about. But whatever was going on with Sir Alfred, mental health help could have really helped him. I'd wager it would have really helped him. Which is sad. Like there was clearly something going on, and he shut people out of his life, took off, got embroiled in this, was smart enough and charismatic enough that he could relate to people interpersonally. But like, I just think he could have got he needed help in some way, and he could have got it. It could have been very different. So in 2006, Alfred has a medical episode that requires him being hospitalised, and they take him to the hospital in France. And while he's there, the French government decides, okay, that's enough.
Of course you can go into the terminal and take someone out of the terminal.
Yeah.
Like it just seems weird why they had just.
I think by this point it was they weren't sure how to do it.
Yeah.
There was concern that it would be a big, ugly scene, and so when he's hospitalized, because they had been willing for a long time to just let him live in France.
Yeah.
So when he's hospitalized, they were like, great, let's take care of this. So they go in there, they pack up all his stuff, and they set him up in essentially like a homeless shelter, like community housing kind of. And Alfred lives there from 2006. He lives in this homeless shelter in Paris until September 2022. And he suddenly decides in September of 2022 to return to Charles de Gaulle Airport, and he starts living in the international terminal again. And most people think it was because he knew he was close to the end of his life and just wanted to be somewhere that felt like home when he died, because just 2 months after returning, Sir Alfred died of a heart attack in the international terminal at Charles de Gaulle Airport, the place that had been his home for 18 years, and then this final 2 months of his life, because that's where he decided he wanted to be.
How do you know that you're that close to the end?
He was in the homeless shelter for 14 years, almost 15 years. And 2 months before he died, just suddenly left the shelter and moved back to the airport.
Wow.
And then he died.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's incredible. What a story. I did not know this story at all.
Well, that is just the gist mini of Sir Alfred, a.k.a. Mehran Karimi Nasseri.
That is a wild story.
Yeah.
Oh, his poor family.
And quite poignant and sad. It's kind of funny. You're like, the guy with the terminal
eating
and Tom
McDonald's
Hanks
every day.
But then you're like, oh my God, it's really quite heartbreaking.
He's just so unhappy. He's broke and just, again, accidentally found himself in a position where he had value as well.
Yeah.
He was valued as this
One of his friends at the terminal, a shop vendor there, said that after a while she thought it's almost like he's institutionalized here.
Yeah.
I don't think he would be able to live outside of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was taken care of in a way, felt safe in a way. There was routine. It felt like home.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 months before he died, I don't mean for this to sound in any way offensive, but it reminded me of what dogs do. When dogs know, seriously, I don't, but when dogs or cats know they're going to die, they sense it. They go to a place where they feel safe and most at home. And it's like he just wanted to
feel at home,
be there.
Yeah. That's
Sir
sad.
Alfred.
So his siblings never just went to the airport to be
not that I could find. And I also tried.
I would have. I would have just been
yeah. I mean, I also tried to find if there's any plaque or monument or something on a bench there or something, but there's nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
There's nothing.
Well, now there's this episode
yeah.
of Just the Gist.
Also a movie starring Tom Hanks, but which I'm sure he appreciated more. But yeah, Yeah, that's just the Gist mini of Mehran, Karimi, Nasseri, the man who had the longest layover in history, 18 years.
I would watch a reality show like Alone, but people are like have to survive.
His little setup was like Alone. Let me show you. Hold on. Alfred. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that's the Alone of airports. So see, he had like his little...
Oh yeah, it does look like an Alone. It looks,
I mean, it is, you know, when you walk past, sorry, I said homeless before, an unhoused person on the street.
Yeah.
And one who's clearly like sort of been set up there for a bit and they've got, you know, a little setup.
Yeah.
It does kind of look like that. Like it's not fancy. It's just a whole bunch of stuff he's collected. He's got like a little trolley that he's found.
Yeah.
Little food court table. He clearly sleeps on the bench, this cushioned bench.
Interesting. Wow.
And he doesn't look great. He looks like he hasn't been outside.
No, he looks like he's been in McDonald's for 16 years.
Yeah, and not getting natural air or sunlight. Like
Wow.
Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah.
That's so amazing.
Yeah. I'm glad you liked it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I thought you'd like that one.
I'm going to think of him every time I fly anywhere.
Yeah.
Every time I'm drinking my coffee.
All right, love you.
All right. Love you too.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Just the Gist, a Just the Network production. Executive produced and hosted by me, Rosie Waterland. Produced and edited by James Joseph with additional production support from JTG team Kate Lieber and Hayley Stavely and Acast legends Guy Scott Wilson and Simon McDermott. Looking for breaking news? It drops on the Just the Gist Patreon every Tuesday, along with a whole lot of other bonus audio, video, and behind-the-scenes content, which you can access for just $1, $1 a week by clicking the link in the show notes or searching Just the Gist Podcast on Patreon. Follow Just the Gist on Instagram and TikTok at Just the Gist Podcast and watch the video version of every episode on our YouTube channel, also at, funnily enough, Just the Gist Podcast. Follow Rosie, that's me, in all of the places at Rosie Waterland. Want to give us a suggestion? Tell Rosie to stop singing so much? Email us at hello@justthegist.com.au. Thank you, as always, for listening. Now go say something impressive at a dinner party. Bye.